Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We've got a Kyle Rittenhouse debate for you. Is he guilty of murder? Is he guilty? So, first, I've got Nate the Lawyer from Nate the Lawyer, the YouTube channel, and he will be arguing that Kyle Rittenhouse is not guilty, and Bess from Millennialsplaining will be arguing that Kyle Rittenhouse is guilty of murder. And thanks to Bess, I gave a shout out to everyone on Twitter, anybody who wants to argue that Kyle Rittenhouse is guilty of murder. And Bess is the only one who responded, and followed up in the DM. So, all right. So Bess, start us off. Why do you think Kyle Rittenhouse is guilty of murder?
Sure. Okay. So let's take this one by one here. So firstly, looking at the situation, like a militia was assembled, and it was not assembled by any state authority, any sanctioned authority whatsoever. It was assembled by the people of the militia themselves, right? And I would actually like to discuss further with you, Nate, about the Second Amendment and what the legalities of that itself is, because I would argue that a militia calling itself into existence with no state sanctioning is not necessarily adherent to the Second Amendment. Anyway, so
how about let's just go straight to the Rosenbaum shooting. So
right. So the
Joseph Rosenbaum. Yeah.
Right. So he was clearly somebody who was mentally disturbed. He had been in mental institutions. He literally had medication in the plastic bag that he attacked Kyle Rittenhouse with. And he was there to start trouble. Right. He had told, I think, his girlfriend or his wife or whatever, that he was ready to go down there and start some. Can I curse?
Of course. Absolutely.
I'm sure. And that he was ready for a fight. And he was not only ready for a fight, but it appeared to me from some of the footage that he was ready to commit suicide by starting a fight, right? And if Kyle were a cop, and that this is a what if statement, just go with me for a second. If Kyle were a cop, and he was faced with somebody who was mentally unstable that was trying to commit suicide by cop, I think that it would be a much more complicated situation, right? It would be a much more complicated situation here. I think that Kyle inserted himself as a volunteer for this militia, inserted himself into a policeman's role, unsanctioned, and I think that everyone who was part of that militia did as well. And
we're just talking about Kyle Rittenhouse, Joseph Rosenbaum.
Right.
So why do you think he did the shooting of Rosenbaum?
The shooting of Rosenbaum
do you believe that was murder?
I believe that was murder.
Yes.
Why?
Right, so why do you believe that was murder? Yes.
Right. Because if Kyle had, if Kyle was assuming the role of cop, right, then he shouldn't have shot somebody who was clearly unstable and clearly willing to commit suicide in that manner. Right.
Okay.
I mean, I believe that.
I'll pass it over to Nate. To Nate.
The first thing is that I don't think there was any evidence that Kyle knew his medical history to be able to make that determination, right? If he knew that he came from a hospital, or he knew he was sick in that way, then I think your argument would have more merit. But if Kyle, I've watched like maybe 50 hours of the trial, and the prosecution made it very clear that they never met each other, that they had that one interaction where he said, if I get you alone, I'll effing kill you. But he didn't know his medical history to make that type of determination. And if the argument is, well, since he's talked to him a couple of minutes in the street, Kyle is 17. He's no medically trained professional that should be diagnosing anyone with any type of medical illnesses on the street. Especially people that he just met that in one night. He doesn't know anything about the guy, except he said a couple of mean things. So, I think if your premise is Kyle should have known that he was mentally ill, then I think,
Well,
I think that's a
that is
reach
because
to
I saw
Justice League to the best.
of this man. There was a crowd assembled around that what appeared to be a gas station, right? And this man was provoking that crowd. Kyle Rittenhouse was in that crowd, so he should have known or should have seen that guy and known that he was, blah, blah, blah. He was literally asking people to shoot him, right? I mean, that's where this started.
But let's just be reasonable here, right? People say crazy stuff all the time, right? But that
Sure.
doesn't mean they're crazy, right? And I'm saying that for lack of a better word. It's not like, someone can have a bad moment, right? I've said things like, yeah, shoot me, but that doesn't mean I'm actually wanting the person to shoot me, right? And plus, you're talking about a very intense situation.
If you see the
with
video
people with
where
guns,
he says
and I'm assuming he knows that nobody's going to shoot him in a crowd full of people, right?
There's
he
Kyle.
knows that's the reason. It's
Actually,
easier to
hold
say
on.
shoot me.
Here's the guy.
That's not Kyle. That's not Kyle.
Yeah,
that's not Kyle.
That wasn't Kyle.
That's not Kyle. That is not Kyle. No.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, look at the pants. They don't even have the same pants on. Like Kyle's pants are different than this guy's pants. But anyway, there's with all these people around screaming shoot me. This guy's not being a hero. It's not like he's alone with these guys saying shoot me.
He seems to be the only guy saying shoot me, and he's doing it pushing the crowd of people.
Well,
I the pants now.
Yeah, but
I just want to ask you this question. So him saying shoot me here is enough for Kyle, which is not here. This guy's not Kyle, but for this event you're saying is enough for Kyle Rittenhouse to be able to say this guy, I know that he's a mentally ill patient and that he's wanting to commit suicide, and that's why I shouldn't shoot him in that moment. Is that the argument you're making here?
No, that's not the argument I'm making. The argument I'm making.
All right, that's what I understood it to be.
Yeah, that was your argument. But if you have another argument, what do you got?
The argument I'm making is that he should have been known his full diagnosis and known this guy is ready to commit suicide or whatever. But it's a signal of danger when somebody is aggressive to a crowd of people who are armed. Right? I mean, that should immediately clue you in to the kind of person that you're dealing with. I know he didn't know the background of this guy. I know that it was a very confusing situation and it's very hard to gauge, whose threats are serious and who's just angry. I definitely understand that. However, I think that this is a situation where, this is a situation where the Second Amendment comes into play. This is a situation where we have to question the right for people to even assemble in this way, to protect property.
Hold on. I don't want to lose the point because it seems like we're going back to property and the Second Amendment, which I think if you're talking about this contextually and the general conversation, yes, it has something. But let me just bring us back to the facts. The facts are Rosenbaum chased Kyle, right? He was chasing behind Kyle. He had Joshua's in his face, and he was chasing behind Kyle. There were gunshots right before that, right? So we're back going to say, so Kyle is running, gunshots behind them, and he's running from whatever the guy's name, Rosenbaum.
Joseph Rosenbaum.
Then Rosenbaum catches up to Kyle. And we know from testimony today, right? From testimony and from video footage that Rosenbaum lunged for the gun. And we know that he even touched the gun because today in court, they said, well, he lunged and his hand touched the gun, right? And he was shot in such a way where he was shot where he was lunging. So now I'm going to ask you. And before he lunged, the witness said, fuck you, and then lunged for the gun. So I'm saying in that moment, you're saying it was 100% unreasonable for Kyle to pull the trigger when somebody's lunging for his gun after screaming "fuck you" and hearing gunshots behind him.
Yes, I believe there are several.
You're saying he's unreasonable.
I believe there are several self-defense mechanisms he could have employed to defend himself other than pulling the trigger.
Okay, but sorry to cut you off, Bess. But first, I just want to establish that if it is found reasonable, if Rittenhouse reasonably believed that his life was in danger, he was in danger of death or serious bodily harm under Wisconsin state law, that's self-defense.
He's not guilty.
We would all agree.
But you're saying
on
he's
that, right? Okay.
Yeah. But you're saying he's unreasonable. So I want to ask. So I want to understand. Why do you believe he's unreasonable?
I believe it's unreasonable because he had a gun and he could have knocked the other guy out with the gun. He could have done several defense moves that he should have been studying along with how to use a gun to defend himself.
Hold on. What? All right. If you said he should have known some self-defense stuff, right? So I just don't want to just have those throwaway lines.
Okay.
There's no regulation or no law or no Second Amendment. When we're talking about Second Amendment, there's no law that says he has to have, right? He has to know how to do that. So remember, so he's a regular citizen with a gun, right? He doesn't have to be trained. There's no law saying he has to be trained. So as a regular person, let's say you were in that situation with the gun, right? You were in this situation, and that's the legal standard. We'd put you and say, well, take Kyle out and put you in that situation. So I'm putting you in that situation and saying, if that happens, and you said you could knock him out, is it possible? You think you could have knocked Rosenbaum out with a gun? Could you have done that?
Yeah, if I was entering a situation with a gun, which this one, if I and he entered this situation voluntarily, let's remember that. If I were entering this situation with a gun, that advertises to literally everyone that you are ready for a fight. Right? That makes you an immediate threat just for having the gun, right? So I'm not saying that this guy attacked him because he thought he was a threat. It's clear that that Rosenbaum attacked him because he wanted to start a fight, and that it was definitely malicious. I'm arguing that there's some kind of like, back and forth on that, but I am saying that we need to rethink, because if you come to the situation with a gun, not only do other people get attracted to you, because if Kyle had not had a gun and he was just trying to help out the crowd, would this guy have even picked him out to chase after? I wonder.
Okay.
So that's what.
All right, let's let Nate respond.
There are a lot of assumptions being made here. What if, right? Now, unfortunately, the law can't really work in that way. It works on what actually happened. And I believe I asked my question poorly. And that's probably why we had the little mix up. So my question was a poor question. So my question is that there is no Kyle Rittenhouse. It's you, Millennialsplain. You find yourself in a situation where, for whatever reason, you happen to be there with an AR-15, right? And you're running, and then certainly you turn around and you hear shots behind your head, bam, bam, and somebody say, "Get her!" And now you're running, right? You're running for your life. You think these people are trying to get you. You see a guy behind you, he throws a bag, and he's running and saying, "F you, I'm coming to get you," right? And then you get to a spot where you can't get away, and you turn around and the person is lunging at you, saying F you, and lunges at you, right? Put your hands out and is about to grab the gun that you have. Are you saying you don't do anything? You just let that person, you just kind of let nature take its course and see what happens?
No, of course not. I'm not saying that, no.
So Kyle is not guilty.
No, I didn't say that.
If you're not saying that, then you're so if again. If you are saying in that situation,
yes, did you hear me?
You are saying in that situation, go ahead.
I said that he could have done one of a million other things other than to shoot this guy to kill. He could have shot him in the leg.
Let me just point out. I think it's
important. Do you know
how
hard it is? Well, he did shoot him. He actually did shoot him in the leg.
And then
in the hip, actually, in the hip.
Afterwards,
because the guy kept coming. It was 4 shots in quick succession.
Okay.
Right. You shoot to stop the threat.
For the record, if I had shot him in the leg and then he kept coming for me, yes, I can understand that. However.
All right.
Game over.
That's game over. So we're gonna move.
He kept coming, and you gunned him down.
That's that. We'll move on to. Is there really anything else? Anything else you have to say about that one, or I guess we'll just move on to the next. I think you want to say something else. I'm sorry, because you're cutting out a little bit. Go ahead, Beth.
Say it one more time. You're cutting out. That's why.
I don't agree that you guys just came out on the top here. That you just said.
Oh no, nobody's coming on top. Nobody's coming on top. Explain your point. Go ahead. We're sorry.
So going back to what I was saying about inserting yourself into the situation as a cop's duty without being sanctioned. Okay, because
Well,
that was the context of the situation, and I'm not making an excuse. I'm saying that that is the context of the situation, and because of that, he provoked people's interest, right? Like, I would never go into a crowd and with a gun like that and just walk around and saying, hey guys, calm down, and hey guys, everybody, and just start directing the fucking crowd. Why?
Bess,
Because I don't know how to use it. Because I don't know how to.
May I respond to that?
Right?
May I respond to that? May I respond to that, though? Just to that point you made. I would never go to a strip club and dance on the strip pole, right? Because you know what? Because I don't know what I'm doing, right? But that doesn't mean the people who choose to do it can't do it, right? I wouldn't be at that protest with the AR-15, but that doesn't mean that someone else who chooses to do it will do it, right? So I understand bad choices. Hold on, I want to make sure. Hold on, I want to make it very clear.
Respond.
You are 100% right. Bad choices were made, right?
I mean, if a
but
stripper,
as you said, hold on.
Respond,
as
please.
you said, just one quick thing. As you said,
Bess, please let
as
Nate
you
respond.
said, yeah. But as you said, if they were in that same situation and you shot someone and they kept coming, and you would have stopped the threat, right? You'd have stopped that threat. And if you're sitting here telling us you would have stopped the threat, then why is it unreasonable for Kyle to stop the threat? Now you said you could have used some other means, but he used the means that he thought was appropriate. And he used the means that he thought was appropriate. So why? I'm just going to say this: how would you have stopped Rosenbaum and the lunch?
Yes,
with the gun?
Let me just respond real quickly, Matt. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead, that's fine.
And then I'll probably never be invited on the show again.
No.
No,
you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
You're not comparing apples to apples here. And my point about Kyle coming into the situation on purpose with a gun to regulate the crowd is the difference here. Because your situation implies a situation like, I'm in my bedroom at night. I have a gun in my drawer. I pull it out, shoot a guy in the leg, and he's still coming at me. Now, that's a different story, because I did not intentionally put myself in that situation with that gun. Right? I did not ask this burglar to come in my house.
You did intentionally. That's false. No, you did put yourself into that's your house, right? You're intentionally there, and you got a gun intentionally. Now that person right now is coming into your house, but you can't say I didn't intentionally put myself. You're in your house. You're with your gun. You are intentionally there. No, are you not intentionally in your house? Aren't you? Don't you intentionally have that gun? But you're saying I didn't intentionally put myself in that situation. Yes, you did. You're in your house. You're intentionally there.
I wasn't going out into
your
a
crowd
with a gun, looking to control the crowd, right? I was sleeping in my house.
Hold on.
This is beyond like intention. Truly, intention is irrelevant here.
Yes. But I'm just showing up the absurd. My thing is I'm just showing the absurdity of the situation. The thing is that what I want to just understand is that the law, the way we understand it now, is not what should he have done. Is that in that situation, was he acting reasonably when he acted, right? And you're saying he's not acting reasonably. Then we went through the scenario. All right, what would you do in that situation? You said, well, hey, I would have shot him in the leg. And I said, well, yeah, he did shoot him in the leg, but then also had 3 other shots. You said, well, if he kept coming, I would have shot him too. And we were like, good, we can go. And then you said, well, no, not really. It's not really that good, because even though I would have shot him, I wouldn't have shot him. And now we're talking about 2A. So I want to just get back to the original situation. It seems like we agree, right? One of the methods, which is reasonable, maybe not the only method, but one of the million methods that you saw, one that we agreed that was reasonable, is that if you shoot somebody in the leg and they keep coming, and you got a gun, you're being reasonable to stop.
An arm, and then I would shoot.
But in other words, you shooting. You're not saying you're not shooting. You saying I'm trying to shoot in the arm. You could try to shoot him in the arm and still hit him in the chest, right? Let's say you try to shoot him in the arm, which is extremely hard, by the way, and then you shoot him in the chest and kill him. Are you saying you're a murderer now? Are you saying I tried to shoot him in the arm, but he juked and I shot him in the chest? Are you a murderer?
So again, you're
a murderer? I'm asking you a very direct question. You the same thing. He's coming. You're saying I'm gonna shoot him in the arm. You shoot him in the chest. Are you a murderer?
You're putting me
in a
situation.
He's putting you exactly in this situation Kyle is in.
Putting himself in the situation is what makes him guilty.
All right, but all right. You're saying just by being there is guilty. I'm saying no. I'm saying that's not near accurate. But I'm asking you though.
Not just
because
but like a cop and taking on that responsibility. Yes.
Two things. Number one, he is not a cop. There were cops there.
He's not a cop.
Cops have to be sworn in. Cops have to be trained. He is not a cop. I don't know where you keep saying he's a he's not a cop. Yes, he's not. He is not a cop. But you don't have only cops. Guns are not limited to cops. Guns are not limited to cops. You know that, right?
I'm aware of that.
Yeah. So they have. So it's.
Are malicious? So that's the thing here. That's what I'm saying. This is
individuals have guns.
It's not I own a gun for self-protection. This is I am going to a place where there is going to be violence because I'm taking on the police's responsibility to control the crowd and protect other people's property.
Hold on. Hold on. Before we move on to the next topic, just let me just ask you one question. So your whole argument is that even though you've admitted that you would have shot, matter of fact, you're saying you were shot in the leg. Now we're talking about shooting in the arms. And you say that even if that was you in that situation, you'd have tried to shoot him in the arm and would have killed them, you wouldn't be responsible for murder. But the only difference between you and Kyle is because Kyle went to the place with the gun. And since he went to the place with the gun, that's what makes him guilty of murder, even though this other guy was trying to kill him.
Is not just going to the place with a gun, but going with the intention of acting as a police officer unsanctioned.
All right,
and
you got what? All right, I got to ask you this: what evidence do you have that happened? That he was going he was going there with the intention to ask for the police?
Sure. There is evidence in Matt's video. I have a video myself which shows other footage of him collaborating with the police. And I'm sure you've seen it. It's all had been on Twitter at the time. He was amongst other militia groups that had assembled, and they were actively working with the police because they
have you watched any of the trial? Only reason why I'm stopping you. Is because I hate misinformation. So have you watched any of the trial? Number one, the police. All right, I've watched every moment of the trial.
I know.
Factual and just to be clear, hold on. Just let me clear the record. Just as a factual matter, right? So we get our facts right. Mm-hmm. Number one, the police said that Kyle was not working with them at all, right? All the police officers said he was not working, he was not coordinating with us at all, right? Well, number one, fact one. So hold on, at least let me finish.
Yeah, this is important.
The only thing they did was give him water, right? Give him water, and they said we enjoy the fact that you guys are out here, right? They were not acting anything on the police. The police made it very clear. They said that. Fact number two, I want to make it very clear. They were not there as police officers. They were there as private security guards for a used car salesman, for used car lot. You know how we know that? Because they had the guy who had hired them also testify. Yeah, Kyle was with us and he was going to protect this one business. So they were not acting as police officers.
Kyle
and there's one last thing. Hold on. One last fact that we need to make sure we get fact. Yes. And one last thing that we have to just get factually correct, right? Because we like the facts. Factually correct is that Kyle Rittenhouse, right, was there for that reason. He was there he had nothing to do with the crowd. He was not there to hulk the crowd, to do anything with the crowd. It was the police that actually forced them down to where Kyle and them were at, right? Because they weren't even near where the thing initially started. The crowd moved to where they were at. So just so we clear the facts, Kyle was not acting as a police officer. He was acting as a private security guard for a used car lot. The police have said this. All trial testimony has said this. So now, with that corrected understanding of the events, right? So we don't have any police issues.
Okay.
A guy comes onto the car lot that you're protecting.
Mm-hmm.
You hear gunshots chasing behind you. Yes, that's what he said. That's the car lot. He's chasing you. You got a gun, right? He's chasing you down. He's saying, "Fuck you!" You turn around. He jumps. Give me the and what do? Do you say, "Let me see if I can knock him out," or do you pull that trigger?
Well, I would try to knock him out.
And if you couldn't knock him out, what do you do?
Well, then but
you let him take your gun. Okay, so but now let's say you kill that person.
Okay.
Should you be found guilty of murder?
I think
it's okay. We know. We know. we know. You know, it's all right. Let's move on to the next
Yeah,
one because
all right, we'll
this
move on.
one,
Let's move on.
this one's a home run. We know it's we know.
Okay, let's move on. And it is crucial. You mentioned at the end.
I don't know.
Kyle did not even. Yeah, I want to make sure everyone understands the facts on this too. As Nate mentioned, Kyle was not the first one to shoot a gun. The first shot came from behind Kyle from a man named Zeminski who had been rioting with Rosenbaum earlier in the night, lighting dumpsters on fire.
Yeah.
Also the allegation that the militia, and they do not identify themselves as a militia, but the armed citizens, one of them, Ryan Bouch, did claim that the police, communicated with him, but that has not been verified at all. Likewise, Balch made the claim that Rosenbaum said he would kill Rittenhouse and him, but that is also totally unverified. There's nothing to support that claim. All right. So we'll move on to the second shooting. So let me just play. Actually, why don't you go ahead, Bess? So you're familiar with these following shootings? You said you watched my video with all the footage, all the raw footage. I'll play it, and you explain why you believe in these shootings it was murder.
Yeah, let's start with the next one. I think.
Well, firstly, the shootings were only one person died in that second shooting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
The person lived, right? I actually agree that because the second person was armed, that Kyle is not. So just so you know that.
All right, so it's all right, but this one we're good with, right? You would have shot him too.
No, I don't agree with your assessment.
All right, so you wouldn't have shot him. So we're back to you wouldn't have shot him.
No, because again,
okay.
Because like, I'm not a lawyer. I'm here because I'm interested to see social change, right? I'm here because I'm interested to talk about these issues and what should be rather than what is, right? So within the current legal system, I understand that yes, he's going to be declared, not guilty of this murder. I understand that. However, I don't believe that somebody should be employed as a security guard with no training to de-escalate the situation, with no training to disarm somebody or to defend themselves without using a gun.
So you'd be okay if he just had more training. Just imagine Kyle. All right, he's totally trained. He's been trained for years. Is it okay? I mean, does that change things for you?
It would be okay if he didn't kill the guy.
So it's not about training. It's about whether you just don't like the fact that other people were killed.
Well, no.
We're saying he has all that training. We're saying he has all the training.
And he didn't have the training to put somebody out without shooting them. Then he should not have been employed as a security guard. There should be laws.
Let's say he was 100% trained. Let's say he was 100% trained. He had the best possible training.
Okay.
And he still shot the guy. Do you
knock him out?
And he still shot the guy with the best training in the world.
My point.
And he still shot them. Yes, and he still shot the guy. No, I do not see your point. I'm saying this happened.
So you're saying
I'm saying he has the best training.
He has the best training in the world, and if he decides not to use it and shoot the guy instead, then that
no. The best, but if the best training could tell you to shoot, right? I'm just saying he had the best training and he shot him anyway. Are you saying that makes a difference?
Again, that makes a huge difference. That makes it murder with foreknowledge.
Because you have the training and you shot him.
Because you have been trained.
How does that make you have
out? If you were confident that you could knock this person out without shooting him, then yes, you are responsible for shooting him. Yes, absolutely, 300%.
So you are saying that he should be guilty of murder. I mean,
yes,
because he's not trained. Okay.
Yes.
So you're saying because he's not trained.
Because he's not.
No matter
trained.
what happened no matter what happened that night. Let's say this guy pulls out a gun, right? Let's say they both have guns. Both of them have guns and point them at each other, right? Point. And no. I'm putting a hypothetical. I'm putting a hypothetical out there. They both got guns and they pointed at each other, right? And Kyle's not trained. And this other guy's, matter of fact, it did happen in the last one. In the last one, right? In the last shooting. Yeah. They were pointing guns at each other. Right. You're under what you're saying now because Kyle wasn't trained. Mm-hmm. He that was attempted murder on the last one because Kyle wasn't trained.
On the last
last one, he wasn't trained. He wasn't trained.
Rounds, and they were both equally untrained, right? In how to disarm each other without whatever. Also, the other person that survived was there as an actual street medic, and he was there to defend him.
All right.
Well, no, but they were both untrained though. Yeah. Remember, your thing was about training. So the fact that they were both untrained.
All right, guys, hold on.
They were both.
Hey,
hold on. I'm just gonna pause it. I love the passion. Good. This is a good fiery debate. I'm just gonna play this from the point after the Rosenbaum shooting, and once we get to this second shooting, then we'll resume the debate. But I'll just play this so everyone can see it play out for themselves. So Rosenbaum shooting. We hear a shot.
First shot.
Yeah, the first shot is from Zeminski. And Rosenbaum is chasing Kyle. Kyle turns around and shoots him. And then we move on. Here we go.
Well, play it. Let's stop it right here. Stop right here. Oh, go back a couple of frames. Go back on frames with YouTube?
It's tough on this StreamYard, but I'll try.
Oh, no.
What did you want to show?
Right before he lunges. Right before he lunges. Just stop right there if you can.
Basically.
All right, yeah. All right, so now Kyle turns. He's lunging for the gun. You're saying, Kyle, what at that moment should Kyle do? What training should Kyle do? You're saying he should do Kung Fu or something like that, right? What training should Kyle do to survive this encounter?
Sorry.
You're muted.
Sorry about that.
Okay,
sorry about that. Well, firstly,
what should he do?
Firstly, if somebody is trying to disarm you, that is not necessarily a threat on your life if you can fight, right? So
no, that's wrong, and incorrect. If somebody's trying to disarm you, you stop them from disarming you. If someone is if just people out there, this is a public service announcement. If you have a knife and someone's trying to take the knife from you, or you have a gun and somebody's trying to take the gun from you, they are trying to harm you. Do not let them do that. That is the wrong answer. I'm just saying, this is a public service announcement. Yes, if someone's trying to disarm you, you assume they are trying to hurt you. That is textbook 101.
Yeah. And Bess, you did say yourself that Rosenbaum was clearly malicious. He was clearly being malicious. You said that yourself. You recognized that.
Yes.
And also, I got to say, I'm pretty sure. I mean, Nate maybe can correct me. Oh, I know. Oh, yeah. This is a friendly debate.
Huh? That's my exact point. Is that he was going to grab the gun and rip it out of Kyle's hands. Great. Well, then they would have gotten in fisticuffs. Right?
No, he's got the gun. He's got the gun. You're saying he's going to drop the gun and go fisticuffs? He's got a gun now. Yeah. Do you really think if Rosenbaum got the gun, he's going to go fisticuffs? Or do you think he's going to use the gun? Which more reasonable now? I'm talking about, let's just use our brains. What do you think? If Rosenbaum gets that gun, do you think he's going to drop the gun and says, yeah, let's now duke it out? Or do you think he's going to use the gun?
Well, no, obviously he would use the gun.
Honest answer. So what are you talking about? You're talking about they're going to go fisticuffs if he grabs the gun. Who? He's grabbed the gun. That's why he's going for the gun, so they don't have to go fisticuffs.
Well, again, like we're making up any scenario here. Literally any.
Nobody making up any scenario. I'm asking you in this moment. Look in this moment. Look what you see on the screen. What could he do to stop that man from getting his gun? I'm asking you that question. That's the one question on the table now. I'm listening.
He could have done literally anything but shoot him.
Literally anything? I mean,
literally.
Like
almost,
what?
Like literally, give us one thing.
Any kind of,
Rosenbaum is grabbing the gun too, by the way.
I mean, you're asking somebody who doesn't know self-defense what moves he could do right now.
I ask? Well, I just want to ask. I want to ask you. You mentioned,
a million things.
Training.
Yeah.
Yes, but you did mention earlier specifically training. If only he was trained more. And I gotta believe, I suspect that training is if somebody is aggressively chasing you, is made clear that his intent is malicious. You said yourself, he made clear his intent was malicious, and they're reaching for your gun, that you do not let them take the gun, And so, I mean, all right. And we can't come up with another thing to do.
I mean,
out of these million things, remember, we got a million things we could do. We can't come up with one. But you're saying we should Kyle should have let him take the gun. Is that what we're saying? Are we saying Kyle should have let him take the gun?
No.
Would you let him take your gun?
I'm saying I would have tried to knock him out. I'm saying I would have tried to knock him out, or if it had gotten worse, then remove the gun from the situation.
How do you mean?
So you saying he can remove the gun from that situation right there at that point?
He could have, yeah.
Yeah. How does he remove the gun from that situation?
You toss it aside and you fight the guy with your hands. Not that you guys are putting this into like the most ridiculous minutia of minutia, because the reality of the situation is that I'm claiming he's guilty not necessarily because of the minutes of this incident, but because he should never have been employed as a security guard with a frickin' gun. He should never have been employed. He should never have been there in that frickin' first place.
Well, you know what? I mean, you know
what that's like saying? That's like saying she should have never been walking down the street wearing that.
No, it's
and yes, that's exactly what that's saying, right? You're blaming you're essentially blaming the victim for being in a dangerous situation instead of blaming the perpetrator for committing the crime, right? So in this way, you see the person who's being chased, the person who's got the gun, the person who's lunging at the other person's gun. You're saying that the argument here is he shouldn't have been there in the first place. He shouldn't have had the gun. Matter of fact, as you say, he shouldn't have had the gun. And that's what I'm saying. You're essentially saying the person who's the aggressor, the person who is the person committing the crime, is the person who should have the benefit of the doubt.
The person committing the initial crime was Rosenberg, right? Because he lit the trash thing on fire and he threw a thing at Kyle and he chased him around the world and whatever. And that is a crime. Right? That is assault.
Well, I appreciate you're actually acknowledging that, Kyle's not the only one responsible for being in this situation.
I don't think he is. He is at all.
Okay, that's good. I mean, honestly, I hear a lot of people making that have made arguments that you have that he just shouldn't have been there, and that's why he's guilty of murder, which I don't agree with. I don't think that makes sense. But they never consider that everyone else there, put themselves. This is not a safe situation. I mean, there's been rioting for nights. It's after curfew. Many people have guns. I mean, even after he shoots Rosenbaum here, not only was he not the first person to fire a shot, immediately after he shoots Rosenbaum, several shots ring out from just over the other side of the parking lot.
Yeah. I believe nobody should have had guns. Nobody should be allowed to have guns. And I absolutely, I just offended you and all your audience. I also believe that.
That's what you believe.
I believe that it was a dumpster fire, a literal dumpster fire, that entire situation. I think everybody was confused. Nobody knew who to trust. Everybody was running around going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what can I do? And everybody was on panic mode. So 3,000,000% can I see how this happened. Okay. I'm not saying that Kyle is guilty because he went out there to go killing some BLM protesters or whatever. That's not what I think at all. I think Kyle thinks he did the right thing. I think that he was, brought up in a system that teaches you to protect property over people's lives. And I think that he was going with his friends and he got hired to do this, right? And, he was put into a situation in which he never should have been put in. So he's guilty because as somebody who chose to do that, right? As somebody
who chose to walk down the street.
Accept the situation and say, yeah, I'm going to take money for defending a car lot when I'm only 17 in a different state than which I live. Yeah, I mean, that's not legal.
Have you like you know I live in New York City and I travel to Jersey all the time. When I was in Jersey, I
I'm
actually traveled to New York
Jersey.
for work. Yeah, hey. So since when is traveling across state lines a crime, right? You know he worked in Kenosha.
Well,
You know his father lived in Kenosha. You know
traveling
his best
across
friend
the
lived in Kenosha.
armed.
Did you also know that like he had his like birthday parties in Kenosha? Like he lived 15 minutes away from this place.
Like, yeah,
So I you know, if you live in Jersey, you've been to New York, right? It's not
yeah,
that far. Well, it
yeah.
depends on where you live in
Bring
Jersey.
weed from New Jersey to New York, I would get arrested for that,
If you did what?
right? If I
If you do
bring
what?
weed,
Mhm.
marijuana from New Jersey, where
Yes.
it's legal, to New York, I would get arrested for that,
Well,
right?
it's legal in New York. It's legal in New York too.
Well, it's decriminalized, right?
It's
It's not
legal.
hell or something
Well,
like that.
it's you know
But
you know
you take
people aren't getting arrested for it now,
that's the literal
huh?
situation that Kyle was facing, right? He
But,
was
but hold on. No. Kyle didn't bring. Hold on. Maybe we got to go back to the facts again. Kyle didn't take anything illegal from Illinois to Wisconsin. He didn't.
allowed to carry a gun into Wisconsin as a minor. Is that what you're
He
telling
did
me?
not carry. All right, he did not carry a gun across state lines to Wisconsin. That's
Was
a
he carry a gun?
that's a false. Let me be clear. That's a false fact, right? He actually got the gun in Wisconsin that night. He didn't travel across state lines with the gun. He got the gun in Wisconsin. Now in Wisconsin, it's illegal for anybody under the age of 18 to have a firearm. But that is actually still even an open question. The court is still struggling with that because it's an exception to the long gun exception to the rule that they're not sure whether it applies in this case or not. So that's a 50-50, right? He could get convicted of that, but that's even an open question whether the gun was illegal, right? Even the curfew charges recently been thrown out because the curfew order was illegal. So those two things are iffy at best, right? To say that he is illegal gun. But the fact, because we like the facts, is that he did not travel across state lines. He got the gun in Wisconsin, the place where he worked, the place where his mama lived, the place where he worked, the place where his father lived, the place where his friends lived. That's where he got the gun.
All right. So yeah, Bess, what are your thoughts on response to that, and just thoughts on the whole states crossed state lines point?
Me?
Yeah.
So again, like the crux of my argument does not lie within whether he crossed state lines with a gun or not, right? I mean, that's a technicality on which I would be pissed off if he got off on, right? Whatever. But my point is this. It's not just that he walked across state lines with a gun and happened upon this riot. Okay, that's different.
Well, he didn't.
He went into the situation.
Yeah, that was just false.
Which he knowingly did, that he knew that this was going on for 2 or 3 days already. He had seen, Matt, you showed it in your video. He had seen the videos of everything on fire, and specifically said to his friend, I want to go do something about this. And he entered into the situation purposely, and he got somebody. This is not just his guilt here. It's also whoever hired him. It's also whoever took him. It's also, it's insane to me that you would be able to hire a minor to carry a gun when that is against the law, number one. And number two, again, I do believe that he was working with the militia people there, and I do believe that those militia were working with the police. There is video of the police saying, we will corral the protesters and push them down to you guys, and then you guys deal with it. There is video of that.
Of what? Of the police saying that?
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
Is there? Nate, have you seen that?
So I DM'd you a video.
Do you know? Hold on. Where? Yeah. What's the source for that? So that would be incredible.
Take a look at my video that I put together. And
do you remember the source? I mean, we know that Ryan Balch, one of the armed citizens or militia, as you are referring to them as,
give me 1 second.
He claimed that the police communicated to him that they were pushing them towards them on purpose, for a conflict.
Yeah, but none of them
Ryan Balch, but that's completely, but that's totally unverified. That's just a claim. Yeah, that was.
Kyle said that.
No, Balch, Ryan Balch.
Balch.
Balch. BALCH.
Balch or something like that. That's but the police said none of them are working for them now.
Yeah.
It wasn't nothing
Like the
official.
police were
Was-
like, yeah, the police were like, no.
Like I said, if you take
Yeah.
a look at the video, there are screenshots, and I was you know,
Well, you can't tell
or-
if someone says in a screenshot.
Yeah, and you
But
can't
anyway,
say it's
sorry.
not official, and
you-
then have a whole argument about how because it was official, we're gonna like you
because
can't say, well,
talking about
it was
the election.
unofficial, and
I'm not
then
talking about that.
make an argument based on it being official.
Can you for a second? Just give me a second.
Sure.
So
How about this? I'm going to play the video.
yeah,
I'll let it play out. After the Rosenbaum shooting to the next shootings, and as that happens, you look for anything you want to share, and message it to me in the private chats, and otherwise we'll continue on.
well, I messaged my video to you on Twitter.
Okay, I'll take a look at it as we play this. All right. Here we go. After shooting Rosenbaum, Rittenhouse circles back and looks at Rosenbaum's body. Then Rittenhouse makes a phone call to his friend Black. Rittenhouse frantically talks on the phone as he runs away.
This dude running did it. Take screenshots. That dude shot him. That nigga just shot that dude. Cranium that boy. He just shot a man. Get that motherfucker.
Get his ass!
As Rittenhouse runs from an angry crowd, Gage Grosskreutz runs up to Rittenhouse and asks him what he's doing.
Hey, what are you doing? You shot somebody?
I want to get police.
Who shot? Who shot? Hey, stop him!
One individual hits Rittenhouse in the head. Rittenhouse keeps running, but eventually falls. An unidentified man tries to jump kick Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse fires a shot. Anthony Huber hits Rittenhouse with the skateboard and grabs the rifle. Rittenhouse fires a shot, killing Huber. Gage Grosskreutz pauses and puts his hands up. Grosskreutz lunges towards him with the gun in his right hand. Rittenhouse shoots Grosskreutz in his right arm. All right. Okay, so I am watching the video. Let's see. I just finished it now, and it is showing the clip of Ryan Balch, who we mentioned made that claim that police had communicated with him that they were going to push the protesters down to the armed citizens for a conflict, but that so that's all it is. It's that unverified claim from Ryan Balch. It's not somebody from the police saying that.
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
But did you see?
I just was gonna say, if the argument here is that,
Matt, did you see the stuff at the beginning about the Kenosha militia and the Facebook screenshots?
Yeah, but the first thing I want to just say is a couple of things. Number one, we don't generally do criminal law in this way, right? Who you're associated with makes you guilty. Just the fact that you're there means you're guilty, right? Generally, we're very specific in how we try to figure these things out. And one of the things we do is saying, okay, in this situation, yes, even if he was a felon and he wasn't supposed to have it, if the gun was 100% illegal in terms if he was a felon, then the issue would be, well, in that moment, yes, he's not supposed to have a gun. Kyle Rittenhouse, even if you agree, Kyle was not supposed to have a gun. In that moment, when he shot these people, was he in fear for his life? And was he acting not reasonably? Now, I also think that the two people, Huber and Grosskreutz, I believe his name is Grosskreutz.
I think it's Grosskreutz. Who knows? Yeah.
Grosskreutz.
Grosskreutz.
The guy Grosskreutz, Gage Grosskreutz. I'll call him Gage. So Huber and Gage, they thought they were understandably trying to stop an active shooter. They thought they were trying to stop an active shooter, and if they and in others, in any situation, if Kyle was actually an active shooter, they would be heroes. They would honestly be heroes, right? He's going to stop with an active shooter with a skateboard. The other guy is running up on an active shooter who has a gun pointed at him. These, so if this was, a high school or something like that, we would be saying these people are heroes. But the problem is they were wrong. He wasn't an active shooter because of the incident that happened earlier with what's his name?
Rosenbaum.
Rosenbaum.
Joseph Rosenbaum.
The incident that happened with Rosenbaum was justified because of the whole lunging and everything. Without all the, without everything, he was there. He was on the property he was supposed to be on, and this guy lunges at his gun, and he responded in the way he did. So he was not an active shooter. An active shooter is someone who's killing people indiscriminately. That's not what happened in that place. These people, even though they had a mistaken belief that he was an active shooter, and I believe are, should honestly are very brave people, but that still doesn't remove his right to defend himself against what he thinks is an imminent threat. Now, as proof for this, for instance, Grosskreutz, who was, Gage.
Gage
on the stand. Yeah, Gage on the stand. He said that even in this moment, when the guy with the skateboard hit him, he was concerned for Kyle's safety for two reasons. Number one, the crowd was after him, and number two, when the guy hit him with the skateboard, he said that he could have had serious head trauma, and anyone with serious head trauma could have a serious issue. So yes, even the person who was shot said that Kyle was in serious trouble. Now, in these moments when someone points a gun at you and someone tries to grab your gun, unfortunately, the law allows you to respond with deadly physical force because if you reasonably, and that's the key, reasonably believe that deadly physical force that can cause serious bodily injury is put upon you. And I think in these situations, in each one of these situations, you can make an argument that that's the case.
You didn't talk much about the skateboard guy. Just saying.
What would you like to say about him?
Well, I think he's probably the clearest case for murder of the three. And again, the last shooting, I agree with you, because the other guy was armed and because he was coming at him, that he should be, that was self-defense. However, I think the guy, see how he's tripping here, and see how the other guy is like coming, had sort of tripped over him, and as Kyle was tripping, he was shooting into the air at the guy, right? And to the point where some people have, like brought this move up as something that's like a good, something to be celebrated, essentially, is that this move was very clever of him, that he was able to shoot this guy in motion. You know what I'm saying? Whereas I see it as irresponsibly shooting this guy.
Which guy you're talking about? Huber, the guy with the skateboard?
The skateboard.
All right. All right, Nate, any response there? Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Nate.
I forgot I was muted. I think, it's easy just to say murder, but I think when the guy who got shot in the arm and he's on the stand saying, yeah, obviously this guy is about to be seriously injured from this skateboard, right? And then as you can see, he pulls the gun. So it seems like we're saying that, pulling someone's gun and trying to disarm them is not enough to respond with force, right? Because that's what's hold on, because I made sure I waited for you to finish.
Yes,
Gage,
I'm sorry.
He literally pulled the gun. So, it seems like the two that you are most concerned with is the first one with Rosenbaum, where he lunged for the gun and actually touched the gun, and then he shot in the hand. That one you're saying is unjustified because he could have let him just take the gun. And it seems in this one where the skateboard guy hits him with the skateboard and then grabs the gun and starts pulling the gun, and he shoots that guy too. It seems you said that is murder too. So it seems like the two that you are most concerned about is that, hey, people can grab for the gun, but the only way he can respond by shooting someone is if they're pointing a gun at them too. Am I correct with that assessment?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's just where we disagree. I believe if someone is trying to disarm you, like this guy's trying to pull his gun away from you, in a hot situation like this, I believe that he's reasonable to respond that way, and reasonable minds can disagree.
So, just can you explain? So, why exactly do you think it's unreasonable for Rittenhouse to believe that his life is in danger of death or great bodily harm when Huber is pulling the gun away from him as an angry crowd of people are approaching him? At least one of them with a gun, Gage.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, they are chasing him to disarm him, right? Like they're not chasing him to kill him. They didn't
How
come.
does
They
she
didn't
know that?
say, out Rittenhouse, I want to fucking kill you. That didn't happen. What they were saying is, hey,
So
that guy,
how did
get him, and that's a call to grab him to bring him to the cops, right? So
I don't
that
know.
we're
That's a
trying.
big leap. That's a big people coming
I get-
at you with guns and
Yeah.
jumping and kicking you in the
Yeah,
head. And
nobody
hitting you with skateboards,
said
and you're
the only
saying,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah, the
I
only thing we heard. I
you're
mean, so
taking a
what makes
big
you
leap
think
there.
that they're gonna get? I mean, I'm really curious. Like,
Mhm.
what gives you the impression that they intend to just apprehend him and take him to the cops? Because all we've heard is cranium that, ad
Yeah.
hominem, get his ass, get his
There's
ass.
a
get
couple
his
of people
ass.
actually said, "Get him, yeah, get him."
Yeah.
Yeah, and what does get him mean? Does get him mean kill him? Get him.
It could be. A guy went there with a gun and pointed a gun at his head.
Shooting other
Somebody
people.
pointed a gun at his head. Because you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, they're saying get him and he was in no fear, and then somebody comes to point a gun at him, right? Because obviously
But
that shows that's a wrong thought, right?
So
Somebody is there trying to get him.
You can't cherry pick facts from the last guy and then apply it to the second guy, because the third guy had not happened yet, right? So the second guy.
Yeah, the second guy was pulling the gun. You're making it seem like, well, hold on. Let's just bring it back. Your argument was he should have known the crowd was peaceful and nobody was going to hurt him. They were just trying to disarm him, right?
No.
So now you're talking about everybody in the crowd. That's exactly what you said. You said that he shouldn't have. That you're saying the second guy was bad. The second shooting was bad because he should have known they were just trying to disarm him, and they weren't trying to seriously injure him. Is that what you're saying? Were these people trying to seriously injure Kyle?
I think these people were trying to apprehend Kyle, especially because the one who lived was a street medic and was there for that purpose.
All right, was Jump Kick Man and the skateboard guy, were they trying to seriously injure him to get that gun away from him?
It's possible.
Jump kick someone.
Get the gun away.
Is this jump kick to the head? Could that cause a serious physical injury? Can somebody jump kicking you in the head like that cause a serious physical injury? Can jump kicking somebody in the head cause a serious physical injury?
Obviously.
Can somebody hitting you in a skateboard in the head cause a serious physical injury?
Obviously, I said that 4 times.
So if that's true, then he can defend himself from serious physical injury. No?
I believe.
Can he defend himself from serious physical injury? That's all I'm asking you.
Well, all you're asking me is to take a piece of this situation out of context and make myself sound like an asshole. So
I'm asking you, can Kyle Rittenhouse, can anyone defend themselves from serious physical injury?
Yeah,
is it possible for someone to defend themselves from serious physical injury?
You're right.
Bess, he's not taking it out of context. He's asking you specifically in this context.
Specifically this context.
Yes.
Kyle was here as a security guard, right? He was here as somebody trying to defend property. He was here.
All right, so hold on.
Somebody trying
so let's clear this up. Let's clear this up. So because he was there as a security guard, right? Because he does not have the right to defend himself against serious physical injury. That's what you're saying.
He has a responsibility.
Does he have the right to defend himself against serious physical injury, even though this is happening?
Much like the cops do and are not enforced to do.
He is not a cop. He is not a cop. No, he does not have no responsibility. He's not a cop. That's wrong. He is not a cop. That's just incorrect. He has no responsibility. He is not a cop. I'm sorry. He's not a cop. He's not. Cops are sworn. They're trained. They're insured.
Responsibility to not shoot people. That's what you just said.
Yes, it is not. It is security guard's responsibility is not to shoot people unless somebody is trying to give them serious physical injury, right? If someone is trying to put upon them serious physical injury, they can shoot them. That's generally the standard, right? If someone's trying to kill you, you can shoot them. So that's why I keep asking you. You're saying he was a security guard. You said he was there because he wanted to be there. I say, I'm giving you all that. I'm saying, well, that's true. But so are you saying that removes his ability to protect himself from death or serious physical injury?
No. Can I
Okay.
ask you?
Okay, so yeah. So what you're saying in these cases? So I gotta say, yeah, you ask as many questions as you want, but let me just ask.
Sure.
If you just said, he's allowed to defend himself, like, so in these situations that Nate just proposed to, you're saying he's not. That would mean he's not guilty of murder, correct?
No.
All right, so that's what I'm not understanding here.
Right. So let's again, because I am arguing for what should be, in my opinion. Okay. I am not arguing based on the law. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what the specific laws of the specific states are. I'm 3,000,000% sure he's going to get off. Okay.
Okay. All right. Can
That's
I say
just number?
Okay. All right. So specifically, let me. I'll ask you a straight up question. So specifically, how do you think things should be different?
Yeah.
How should the law be different, in your opinion, to make things better?
Okay.
Specifically, that would change the outcome of this trial.
Absolutely. So specifically, legally,
yeah,
I believe that if you are employed on a job in which you are holding a gun, that you should be trained in specific de-escalation tactics. You should be trained in specific self-defense tactics that disarm the situation and do everything you possibly can not to shoot the other person. I think that training should also be forced upon policemen. And that's why I kept holding them equally, because to me, security force is a private police, right? And I believe that they should be held accountable similarly. Okay, so that's what I believe the situation should be, is that if Kyle Rittenhouse was 18 years old and he had the proper de-escalation training and he decided not to use it, but instead to use his gun, then he'd be guilty. Yes. And in this case, I believe that he entered this situation knowing that it was going to be chaos, knowing that it was going to be a violent situation, and he entered it with the gun, knowing that he did not know that de-escalating training, knowing that he did not know how to disarm somebody without using his gun.
Well,
and that's
knowing that you don't know is something. Well, I'm the thing that's confusing me is that we seem to be talking in circles a little bit, but then we're making statements that are contrary to other statements. For instance, you agreed earlier, right? Because I was going to write it down. It was so profound. You said, I think he's going to get off. I don't think he's legally guilty. And then you said something earlier that I did write down. You said you're arguing from an aspirational point of view. And the aspirational point of view is that legally, and you've said this a couple of times, you said legally, I know he's going to get off. Legally, I know he's not guilty. And then you even mentioned legally, you understood that why he would shoot the people, but you were saying aspirationally that people shouldn't have guns on the street, right? Yes. And you're saying aspirationally, people shouldn't have guns on the street, right? You're saying aspirationally, right? Mm-hmm. You believe that even if we have guns, they have to have this training. You're saying aspirationally, you say, and as a moral judgment, you believe this is murder, right? Because there could have been other things done, but you're saying as a legal matter, this is not murder, and Kyle is going to get off because this is not murder, right? But as a moral judgment, Kyle should be guilty of murder. Would that be more specific to what you're actually explaining? Because when you say, on one instance, when you say, I know he's going to get off, I know it's self-defense in that instance, but then he's a murderer in the other instance, those two statements conflict because he can't have exercise self-defense, and then he can't also be a murderer. But it can reconcile because what you're saying is a policy decision, which is some of the policy decisions I do agree with, right? I believe people should be trained, and they should. And if you're going to have a gun and be a security guard, you should be insured and have a license and things of that nature. So, so if just in case you hurt somebody, they can get paid, and nobody has to suffer. Those things I can agree with, but that is an aspirational view of what your law should be. And in that model that you're putting forth, aspirationally, you think he's guilty of murder. But as the law stands today, as you said before earlier, he's not guilty because the law is going to recognize this as self-defense.
Well,
as you said earlier, the law is going to recognize it's self-defense, and you know he's not guilty. Those are your words. I know he's not guilty now because it's going to be self-defense, but aspirationally, I believe he's a murderer.
That was not quite what I said.
No, you didn't say the aspirational part of it, but you did say
my-
the part about he's not guilty. You know he's not going to be found not guilty.
I know
You
he's
did
not
say
going to be,
that.
but I don't
Yes.
believe that the legal system is apolitical, right?
But that's
And
a different story. That's a different story. That's a different
No,
story.
no, no, it isn't. No, it isn't.
That's a
Because the people who are running this, the people who are interested in this are not interested in having a conversation about whether guns should be allowed in regular people's hands. They're not interested in having a conversation about de-escalation. They're not interested in having conversations about, you know, preventative issues, right? So both the prosecution and the defense are not interested in having those conversations. What do you have left?
No.
What do you
But
have
let
left?
me hold on. I gotta explain something to you that's very, very, very important. The prosecution and defense are not interested in what you're saying. You know why? Because those are policy decisions left up to the people who write the laws. That's the legislature and the executive, right? Those are the people who write the laws and write policy. So if they decide to change the law aspirationally, as you're saying, background checks, so forth, then we have a difference, right? Then in that trial with the lawyers, then they have to work around the laws that were passed, right? Because what those lawyers are doing are arguing with the laws on the books now, because Kyle is not going to be judged off the aspirational piece that you're asking. He's going to be judged off how the law is now. And as the law is now, you would admit that Kyle is going to be found not guilty, right? As the law is now. Now,
Well, as the situation
you
reads
said that.
now, but I don't.
Yes, as the law is now, he's not guilty, right?
But you're saying
would
as
agree
the
with
law
that.
is now, in the way
Correct.
that assuming that the law is a monolith and assuming that the
No, wrong. I'm
I'm-
not saying that.
right, and that's not
Wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm
The
saying
law-
as the law is now, because he's being judged under the law now. He's not being judged. What you're saying is, see, I'm giving you credit. As the law is now, he's not going to be convicted. You said that. As the law that you wanted to be, he would be convicted. That's what I'm saying. And that's what you're saying.
I'm saying that no matter what the laws are, a lot of the times people can make that certain outcomes will people's motivations are not separate from their interpretation of the law. That is the best way to put this, right? So you cannot say under the law, because every law is up for interpretation. And as a lawyer, you know that it's your job to interpret that law in a way that either, you know, presents guilty or not guilty to whatever your thing is, right?
No,
So,
false.
the law,
No, false.
not monolith.
Absolutely false. No, false. I do not interpret the law. The law is interpreted by the judiciary. The judge is up there who interprets the law. The judge will say the law means this, right? That's the judiciary. They tell you what the law means, and we argue within the confines of the law. That's why earlier when you said the lawyers aren't talking about the aspirational pieces of the law, about trying to fix these policy things. Why? Because they don't care. That's irrelevant in the courtroom, because in the courtroom, it's only the law. The law is the only thing that matters to their client, right? Because their client, Kyle Rittenhouse, is being judged on what the law, hold on. Kyle Rittenhouse is going to be judged on what the law is now, right? The judge is not going to say, well, the law in 5 years is going to be this way, and we're going to judge them under that standard. They're going to say, no, what is the, they're going to, hold on. They're going to open up the law books today and say, what's the law is now? And under that premise, you have already admitted, like twice already, that he is going to be found not guilty. Is that fair?
Because of the situation, our political situation, yes. Because there is no incentive for either side to interpret the law differently. I believe there is room to interpret the laws differently.
How do you think so you think the political situation should be different? Well, first, okay, you said, correct me if I'm wrong, where you said the legal situation would be different. You think the legal situation should be different such that Rittenhouse would be guilty because he didn't receive enough training? I'm just trying to follow.
Okay. No, I am saying yes and no. I am saying that it should be it should be illegal to hire a 17-year-old to bear a gun in a state in which it is not legal to bear a gun, right? But under a minority, okay? And I'm also saying that if somebody
But
is
that's a separate charge. The
that.
holding of a gun, having a gun out in public like he did, which is illegal
charged for that crime.
being underage. Yeah, that's a separate charge. Yeah.
Yes,
But
so
it's
he's charged
not-
for
but-
that crime. We can move on with that.
Sure.
He's charged for that crime.
Yeah. It is illegal.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's illegal. He's charged.
held responsible for the consequences of that. Yes.
All right.
So what?
All right. So
But
yeah,
how
he's
would
being
you-
charged,
Yeah.
and he's going to be convicted of having a gun, illegal gun. Correct.
But you said, Bess, that you thought the law should be changed so that he would be guilty, and I didn't quite get how you think it should be changed.
Oh, I
Did you
think I
catch it, Nate?
understand what you're saying now. No, I think all right. So all right. So I think I get it now. So let's say I steal a car, and I get into an accident. You're saying that no matter what happens, I'm guilty because I stole the car, right? So if I get in a car and I drive the car down the highway and it gets into an accident, no matter if I'm at fault or not, I'm guilty because I stole the car.
You're guilty
Right?
of stealing the car. Yeah.
I'm liable. So, but I would be liable of any accident, right? So let's say I steal the car and I'm driving perfect down the street, and some maniac comes and crashes into me. Totally the maniac's fault. That would be then the argument you're saying that, well, Nate, since you stole the car, even though you were driving correctly, and this maniac hit you, you know what?
No.
You're
Well,
liable.
so Bess, so then you are not saying that he should be guilty of, I mean, just really, again, just as concisely as you can, how do you think the law should be changed so that he's guilty of murder?
I think anybody who is employed as a security guard and anybody who is employed as a policeman should be held to those standards that I said. And that is why.
Okay.
What?
That's it.
Okay. So you think because it's not sufficient training,
Yeah.
you think they should have there should be a legal requirement to carry a gun, or you can't defend yourself with a
That
gun
you
unless
are-
you have more training.
The training.
Basically.
Yeah,
the
unless
legal
you have that
requirement-
training.
Not be employed to carry a gun unless you have a specific amount of training, which includes de-escalation training and hand-to-hand
Yeah.
self-defense training.
But don't you think that those are separate things? Like, it's already. I'm sure there are some standards for guns. There are, like, there's background checks and all this stuff. So I mean, that's a separate thing. We agree that Kyle did. He was underage for being able to carry a gun out in public like he did. That's illegal. And so I think Nate actually his metaphor is actually, it seems to be accurate. I mean, tell us how that, you don't see how so wait, I mean, how does, well, okay. So sorry. All right. You say private security needs more training, needs more legal requirements to carry a gun and use a gun in self-defense.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going from there and saying, therefore, they should be guilty of murder if they ever do use a gun without said training.
Yes. Without utilizing said training as well. Even if they had the training and they decided not to use it and shoot anyway, then that would be guilty of murder.
Yeah, but that's a different situation. So Kyle doesn't have the training. So in other words, if in any way he uses that gun, right? If someone pulls another gun at him, if no matter, there's no situation that Kyle can be in where he would be justified in using that weapon because he doesn't have that training.
Not for employment, no.
Okay.
So if you're working, if you're working a job, you can't.
If you're working with that gun, yes.
Yes.
So just to be clear, you have now, but now you've just confused me one more time, because you said that third one.
Sorry.
You said that third. You said that third shooting, right? Because I just asked you. So you're saying because he doesn't have that training. We know Kyle doesn't have that training. You said because he doesn't have that training, there's no possible way he's employed. There's no possible way he could be justified in any of those shootings because he doesn't have that training, right? I asked you twice. You said yes. And you're even saying yes now. But then we go to the third shooting, right? The third shooting where you said earlier, we can run it back because this is being recorded on YouTube, where you said, well, you know what? That third shooting, he was justified because the guy was pointing a gun at Kyle. So how do you reconcile those two factors? Because when the guy's pointing a gun at Kyle, he doesn't have the training at that point either.
He doesn't. And if he should have. I didn't mean to imply that he shouldn't have.
So Kyle is so in other words, so you were incorrect when you said earlier that Kyle was justified in self-defense with this one.
According to that standard, he would be guilty of the third one as well. But I could see how
all three.
Sure. But again, I can see how, you know, that this situation is different because both of these people. Wait a minute.
You can't change it up now. You've already made the statement. Now you're trying to change it up and saying, well, I can see now that's the road to hell. That's the road to hell for us. We got it. We good.
Go ahead, Bess. Go ahead, Bess. Okay, great.
So both of these people were in a situation where they were carrying a gun to try to provide security. Okay, the person who was a street medic brought a gun to provide security against the militia that was supposedly going to be there, right?
An illegal gun. Hold on, let's be clear. Yeah. It was an illegal gun. He has an illegal gun too. Okay. That
again, this situation is a dumpster fire. There's a lot of people on both sides that did a lot of stupid shit unsanctioned. And I think in this particular shooting, this one incident, they both had fault. It's like when you get into a collision and the cop says like, well, you're both at fault, so nobody's at fault. That's how I feel. Does that make more sense?
I'm sure.
I am never coming on this show again because you guys are never going to invite me.
Bess, we're just having a friendly conversation. This is a friendly debate, friendly conversation.
It's all because it's confusing because on one end, I'm trying to give it as much charity, but then it's like you have those conflicting statements. It's like, oh, okay, well, he doesn't have the training. He put himself in a situation and he can never be justified. But then here you're like, well, I don't really know. He may be justified because now we're adding different scenarios. And that's why, I think my standard, and I think the legal standard in Wisconsin that's been set in this trial many times is whether a reasonable person find themselves in Kyle's situation, right, with the gun, we're at in those moments, irrespective of whether the gun is illegal or not. Is he in fear of his life? Because you would admit that there's some situations like with this guy pointing a gun at you, where even that they're both holding illegal guns, right? They don't know that each other's guns are illegal. He's shooting this guy because his life is in danger. And I think in those other two scenarios, he only shot those people because his life was in danger. And I think you really know that too, because that's what you said. I know he's going to get off. Now, even when we get to the point of this aspiration of what they should do, you would agree as a reasonable person that those laws are not in effect, right? Those laws forcing them to do all this stuff are not in effect. What the laws that are in effect is having an illegal gun. He's been charged with that. Being out after curfew, he's been charged with that. And the murders are separate charges. But unfortunately, as you said before, in this particular case, you think it's reasonable that he shot Grosskreutz, and the other two, you believe it's reasonable for him to defend himself. But you just don't think that. You think that if there was some other way that he could have avoided it, it would have been possible. But you would agree, shooting those people is not unreasonable based on the totality of the circumstances. You may not agree with the choice, but agreeing with it and saying it's reasonable are two different things.
I understand.
You may not have done it.
I understand your point.
You may not have done it, but you could agree with me that it's reasonable.
Right. Taking this situation just looking at the situation in one night. Let's imagine that Kyle wasn't there on anybody's behest. Let's imagine that he just wandered into this crowd with a gun. Then your case makes sense to me. But what I am saying is that he had a greater responsibility for safety of himself and others. And so did the medic. And that's this shooting here, is that Kyle Rittenhouse is a security guard and we have a medic here, and they are both voluntarily
Hold on. How?
provide security.
I mean, they both have guns. It's irrelevant. Like they both have guns, and they also both had med packs. So I mean, just referring to one as a guard and another a medic is just
because no.
Just also be clear. Kyle treated.
I'm trying to say they're similar.
Well, we should. Well, if we're gonna call them medics for the situation, right? They didn't fill out paperwork. They weren't official medics in that situation. What they were, but Kyle treated people. Kyle treated people at the scene. Matter of fact, I think he treated just people like Grosskreutz was treating people, right? They were both treating people. Kyle actually treated some protesters with his packs and everything. And he was a lifeguard, so I know he probably had the EMT and CPR first aid certified. So even in that situation, so you have two medics here who were there as medics, right? And Kyle just had the secondary goal of also being a security guard. And both of these medics, hold on, both are these
being paid.
All right, I'll give it to you. His primary goal is being a security. He was a security guard medic, but now we have two medics with guns confronting each other.
Yeah.
And you're saying both of them, and you would agree, both of them are reasonable. If the other medic, the one with the handgun, if he shoots Kyle and kills Kyle, he's not killing Kyle, is it? He's acting in self-defense, right?
No, that's not my point.
So you would say the medic.
Opposite. My point is they're both wrong.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like So Bess, you have come to the conclusion that Kyle Rittenhouse is not guilty of murder. You think okay. No, wait. No,
you said that. You literally said that. You said it's my belief. I believe he's going to be found not guilty of murder. But as aspirational, I think he should be.
Do I believe he is not guilty? No. Right? Those are two different things for me.
Well, under the current law or just aspirational law?
Again,
under the current law, is he not guilty?
Will not be found not guilty.
No, under the current law, the way the law is now, do you believe he's not guilty under the way the law is now?
Again, I believe he will be found not guilty under the way the law is now, under the way that society is being run. Yes.
And do you think that's correct for him? Do you think it's correct for him to be found not guilty under the law as it is now?
No, I believe that if there were somebody who was interested in having the conversations that I was having for political reasons, that they would find a better way to prosecute him. He's a defendant, right?
How would you prosecute him differently under the law currently?
Yeah, how would you? Yeah.
And again, I'm not a lawyer, so you're asking me details that I can't give you. And
well, you kind of threw that out there, so you can't throw out this complicated thing and then say you can't ask me questions about it. You confused.
Well, no. So what I'm saying is that I can't cite to you specific laws, but I do know this: that every case is built on a narrative, right? That each lawyer presents a narrative of how they want the story to go, right? And that narrative is influenced by their political opinions and their will. Right. So if there were somebody there who was interested in fighting, the gun lobbyists, it was interested in making this an issue to sort of, bring some sense to the BLM marches at all, then, that I believe that there are certain, I believe that there is a way to paint this case in a way that would make him appear in a way that would show that he is guilty by default.
There's no such thing.
Okay. And that's why he's gonna get off. Right? So
no, but there's no such thing as so you're talking about essentially you're talking about summary judgment, right? You're saying that he should just be guilty of murder by default. There should be guilty by default means no jury, right? No, that means no due process. He's guilty. That's exactly what. Hold on. That's exactly what guilty by default means, right? If you're guilty by default, there's no jury, there's no judge. You are guilty.
Okay, well, that's not what I meant. So if that's a thing, and
okay. All right, so that's what I thought you were saying. I'm like, that's pretty strange.
I
So
apologize.
we agree with due process. We agree with laws.
Yes.
So what laws should
That's
he be
good.
prosecuted under? What law should he be prosecuted under?
So
The current
I
law,
mean,
right? I'm assuming
what's that?
the
Current
current
laws.
law, right? You're
Current.
saying the laws on the books today he should be prosecuted, and under those laws, you saying that you believe he's going to be found not guilty, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And
Um,
you believe that finding him not guilty under current law is appropriate.
I don't think it's appropriate. No. I mean, I don't think, morally speaking, it's
Without
appropriate.
unless because everything you can, all right, morally speaking, it's not appropriate. Exactly. But legally, no, that's right, because the law and morals are two different things. So morally speaking, you don't
Well,
believe that he's not guilty. And I understand that. There's a lot of
right.
people who can say morally, I believe what he did was wrong, but legally, what he did was correct.
Now, I don't
Right?
believe that
Because being morally right and legally right are two different things. They're not the same thing.
yeah, unfortunately, you're correct about that.
Well, I got to ask you, Bess, do you not see the benefit? You don't see it as just for everyone to be able to defend themselves? It's in such a situation. We agree that nobody, the wise thing is you don't put yourself in that situation to begin with.
Oh yeah.
But don't you see, do you not see the value in being legally available, able and free to protect yourself in such a dangerous situation if you happen to get in a situation like that?
It's not a, that's exactly the difference that I think we're having the worst argument about, is that the way that you paint that makes it sound like he just wandered into this unknowingly. But it's not the case. He chose this. He chose to enter a situation that he knew was going to be chaotic, that he knew was going to be violent, and he chose to bring a gun. He chose to be employed to defend someone else's property. So he's already putting himself.
Oh yeah, there's no disagreement there. Everyone agrees this is a terrible decision. This is not a good decision to put you're putting yourself in an unsafe situation. Okay, so let me ask you. I'm genuinely curious, Bess. You said you had watched my video covering it with all the camera angles, summary. Did you learn anything? Were you misled at all by the media? Like, how has your thoughts on this case evolved? Because, yeah, I mean, you did come out and say, like, you do think he's not guilty. I assume that was not what you thought originally. So how did your thoughts on that evolve?
I do think he's guilty.
Under the current legal
under current law, under the current law, you said you're going to be found not guilty, right?
Right.
So,
again,
but maybe the better question is
not a relative thing.
Under the current system, under
relative.
the current law,
under
the current law, hold on, under the current law, how would you find him guilty without saying, well, he should have had training, because that's not required under the current law, without saying all that other stuff that you're adding onto it under the current law, as we know it now? How do you are you saying that you would believe you would vote guilty in this trial under the current law?
I believe that. Yes, I believe that
you would start good.
Let me for a second. I believe this is what I believe. I believe that if there would be a case to make, perhaps, around the fact that he was employed to carry a gun and to defend property, and I think that in that case, if he were to be found guilty, then he would, also get the person who hired him involved, and then that would be a bigger story.
Well, maybe I asked the question poorly. Maybe I asked a poor question. It's my fault.
I mean, what
I'm
you're
asking you
for specifics.
under. I just want to no. I'm just asking you for your opinion, right? And this is not a gotcha one. It's just your opinion, right? So I'm saying you're on the jury. You're the juror, and you have these facts. And under current law, right? Current law says you can defend yourself with deadly physical force if someone presents a serious threat to your life or your safety, right? So in each one of those situations, we agree that there were serious threats to Kyle, right? The guy lunging and trying to jump at the gun. No matter what you think, someone lunging for your gun and trying to grab your gun, that's a serious threat, right? You agreed with that. Someone hitting you over the head with a skateboard and trying to pull your gun from you. We agreed also. That's a serious threat. And then obviously gross Kreutz, the person gross Kreutz, the
Gage.
person pointing the gun
Gage
at Kyle.
Grosskreutz.
Gage gross Kreutz. He's pointing the gun at Kyle, and you agreed that was a serious threat to his life and safety. So under the current law, that would allow you to respond with deadly physical force if that's employed against you. So under the current system, are you saying that you could find Kyle guilty based on the law as it is now, as I've just explained it to you?
I could.
So you would. So if you were sitting on a jury,
I believe
would you
do so? However,
no,
if,
would
you?
If you were sitting on a jury,
find him guilty?
you're the jury member. You're the member on the jury. Would you find him guilty?
I would. If I'm the jury member, I would be unable to separate my moral convictions from the actual law.
Well, this is well again. I'm not
Oh,
having you're actually not
you...
yeah, but that's something. If we're having a hypothetical, and I'm asking you for your opinion, right? So I'm not asking you. So in this hypothetical, you should be able to say separate the more, because you've even by saying that you even know there's a separation between the two. There's something that you legally is right, and there's something morally is right. By saying that responding to me in that way, you've acknowledged that. So I'm not asking you what you morally would do. I'm asking you what you legally would do. And you've already made it. You've already made the claim that they're going to be different. So what's that legal thing that you're going to do that's going to be different? Because morally you're saying guilty, but you're saying I would do something different legally. So the only thing different that you could do legally. Go ahead.
And that's the point that I think we're missing here is that the law is up to human response. The law is up to human interpretation. And that if you put me on the jury, I would absolutely vote guilty.
Okay.
I don't care what
because you can't separate because you don't care what the law says.
Absolutely.
Because you don't care what the so the law absolutely doesn't matter. He's guilty because you find him guilty.
Yeah, I would vote that. Yeah, if I were on the jury.
All
Why
right.
you would not want me on this jury?
Is that in each of these?
Fair.
Is that in each of these shootings? Guilty for each of these shootings? All three?
Yeah, but I believe earlier in the conversation that the argument that I had made, if I applied it to all three equally, then yes, with all of the laws that I said that I wanted in place, then yes. But I believe, but again, the third shooting is a case where both people were at fault. So that's
but neither one. But you're saying neither one is guilty, right? You said neither one is not. Well, I should say both of them are guilty, right? It doesn't matter.
Both of them are guilty.
Matter. You're saying both of them are guilty. Yeah, you're saying both.
All right,
of them are guilty.
All right, I'm gonna play some testimony from the trial. Gage Grosskreutz, the third man shot. You say they're equally guilty. Let's play this testimony and let me get you guys' reaction. See if that changes anything for you, Bess.
You'd agree your firearm is pointed at Mr. Rittenhouse, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And once your firearm is pointed at Mr. Rittenhouse, that's when he fires his gun. Yes?
No.
Sir, look, I don't want to... Does this look like right now your arm is being shot?
That looks like my bicep being vaporized, yes.
Okay. And it's being vaporized as you're pointing your gun directly at him. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so when you were standing 3 to 5 feet from him with your arms up in the air, he never fired, right?
Correct.
It wasn't until you pointed your gun at him, advanced on him, with your gun, now your hands down, pointed at him, that he fired, right?
Correct.
All right, Nate, well, what's your reaction to that?
Well, I think me and Bess, agree, and that somebody's pointing a gun at you and you got a gun, you got to shoot. It's plain and simple. I've said that earlier. Bess said that earlier. This is the one that she struggles with. This is the one that I think is clear. And I think that admission shows that under the current law and the current system, he was a serious threat to Kyle. He pointed a gun at Kyle. Kyle responded to that serious threat. And based on now morally, no matter what you think, he shouldn't have had a gun there or whatever. But the legal reality is, if what he's saying is true, Kyle is justified in shooting him because Kyle believed reasonably that he was a serious threat because he was looking down the barrel of that man's gun.
And Bess, so, do you still think that Kyle is guilty of murdering? Would you still vote on the jury that Kyle is guilty of murdering this man? Sorry, not murdering, shooting this man. What's the legal term that he's being charged with?
This is I think an aggravated assault. Or
Aggravated
attempted murder. I think this is
attempted murder. That's
murder
right.
charge.
Okay,
Yeah.
attempted murder on Gage. Knowing that Gage pointed the gun at Kyle before Kyle shot, and that Kyle was not shooting Gage until Gage pointed a gun at Kyle and lunged toward it.
Yeah, I would not agree that it's attempted murder. No.
Oh, okay.
Self-defense. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because the sequence of events clearly shows that this guy walked towards Kyle with his hands up. Kyle did not respond by putting down his gun, so he took out his gun and escalated the situation. Right? So that's pretty clear. I would say a gun for a gun.
Okay. Interesting.
Well, I think that's good because I have to go in maybe 3 minutes.
Okay, Nate.
Yeah, because I got to put.
All right, just to wrap it up, I will just pose like one last question to each of you. Bess, how has your mind evolved on this case? I mean, it's a year-old case. I mean, has your mind changed with more information? I mean, we just saw it change a little bit with Gage's testimony there, but how else?
Honestly, I believe that the biggest shift was me finding out that he was employed to be there, because I didn't think that was the case before we spoke. I actually thought that he was there voluntarily as a member of that militia. I did just upload that video that I was talking about to my channel if anyone wants to go check it out. So again, I don't I didn't know that he was hired to be there. I think that that's horrifying. But I also think that it's sort of, I don't know. I guess it makes it a little bit more complicated for me, morally speaking, even because he was employed to be there to protect somebody's property rather than just showing up to do it for funsies. So
well, he volunteered to do it. I don't see that much of a difference there. But
he volunteered to do it, but he was paid. So is that what happened?
He was under the impression he would be paid. I don't know. Nate, do you know?
Yeah, from what I understand, he was under the impression that he would be paid.
Yeah,
because remember the guy was like, we're going to give him a couple of dollars or whatever. But the thing is that my final point is I think employment doesn't matter. I think if you're someone, if he's employed, if he was not employed, if he was there for the protest, or if he was there to protect the business, which the property the first shooting occurred, I don't think it matters. What does matter is the situations and the events and what happened in that moment. And I think if somebody is chasing someone, lunging at them and trying to get their weapon, I think those situations, people there are different ways people can respond. Yes, if Kyle had all this training, this expert, if he was Bruce Lee or some expert martial artist, maybe he could have gotten out of that situation. But generally, being reasonable, he has a firearm, somebody's trying to grab that firearm, and he responds with deadly physical force because that person lunging for your firearm is putting you in a situation where it's dangerous, where they're a danger to you, to your life and your safety. Same thing with the skateboard guy, same thing with the guy with the gun at the end. And I think we can all reasonably, now, even though I am sympathetic to the whole, none of them should have been there, right? Because the whole Jacob Blake thing was a lie anyway, right? So none of them should have been there, right? Jacob Blake situation was just totally mishandled by the media. But at the end, there was a curfew. So if we're talking about who should have been there, nobody should have been there. That the street should have been empty. but people made the choice to violate the law. So if we're talking about just people violating the law, or everybody who was at the protest violating curfew was violating the law. But I don't believe any of them lost their rights to self-defense, right? Nobody. That doesn't mean people could just murder them because, hey, you were out at night and nobody's supposed to be here. You guys are all committing misdemeanors. That gave people the right to murder them. No, I don't think that's the way it works. But I also do agree that things can change, that we can make things better. I think if you do, hire people or have people watching your thing and they hurt some people, then yes, they should have insurance and their insurance should pay and those families should get paid. Yes, I agree with things like that. But what I will not agree with is saying that we should judge someone on laws that we believe should be there, right? Because when you said that earlier, you were like, I can't do it because I believe the law should be this. I believe the laws are what they are now, and we should advocate for their change, advocate for their policy, advocate for those policies. But we can only judge people on what the law is now. That's what our country is built on. That's the foundation of our law, and that's how we've been treated. That's how we've been doing it for the past 200 years.
Nate the Lawyer from Nate the Lawyer on YouTube. Thanks so much for joining me. And Bess of Millennial-splain, the podcast. Thanks for joining me as well. Have a great night, everyone.
Guys, I really appreciate it. I know I was the odd man out. Thank you.
Peace out. Ending broadcast now.